Threadheads with my partner in crime, Brad England from Oklahoma. Hey, Brad.
Hey, Jason. How you doing, man?
Man, we have talked about getting back on the show for a long, long time, so I'm glad that with the pandemic still going on, we found some time to finally record another episode of Threadheads.
Absolutely. I'm agreeing. It's been a long time. I think when I got to looking back, maybe the last one we really did was Indy. Was it last year?
Yeah, in my Facebook memories, I actually had pop up this weekend where I had shot a live video just of the tradery auction in Indy. So I think that would have been right.
Yeah. That's the last time I guess I saw you. Then I guess maybe I can't remember now.
Might have been because the pandemic's been going on. So
might have been. It's been crazy. So.
Well, just to kind of give everybody the background, back in 2012, Brad England and I were on a podcast together, and out of that podcast discussion birthed this idea of a Facebook group, which some of you may have heard of, you might be a member of, called the Scout Patch Collectors. And so interestingly enough, now, 9 years later, we're going to talk a little bit about that Facebook group and how it's been just a wonderful thing during the pandemic when we can't go anywhere. But the format of this show is Brad and I have just kind of picked out a couple of things that we want to talk about, and we'll kind of go back and forth. And I'm going to start with something that kind of popped up in the Facebook group. So there was something in the hobby called an Apple bag. And if you've never seen this before, I've got one here. I'm going to show it to you. The Apple bag was something that came out at the 1985 National Scout Jamboree. And as the name implies, it was from Apple. I guess maybe it was Macintosh. I'm not sure. I never have understood what's the difference between an Apple and a Macintosh, but whatever. So at the 1985 National Scout Jamboree, Apple showed up and they had these computer bags that for whatever reason, there was an error. The manufacturer made them too small. And so they had all these computer bags to get rid of. And somebody, I guess those are pretty clever people there, said, you know what? Maybe the Boy Scouts would like to have these. And so what they did was they passed them out at the 85 Jamboree, and it was a huge, huge thing. People talk about waiting in line for hours to get one of these Apple bags. And I've heard people tell stories of how they refused to wait in line and it took them years to get one. You know, it just kind of became this legendary thing. So somebody had one recently on the Facebook group, and I actually messaged back and forth with him a little bit about taking it off his hands. Not that I don't already have an Apple bag. I actually have a couple of them. But, you know, I sort of had this thing for him. And he eventually decided to keep his. And then I remembered that, you know, for everybody else in the world, this is just an Apple laptop bag, a vintage Apple laptop bag. And so I went on eBay and I searched vintage Apple laptop bag. And lo and behold, you can find these on there. So this is kind of what it looked like in 1985. And I'll kind of open this up for you to let you see. Basically, this is just tall enough for like a flap or a CSP to go in. Here's the strap right here. So I guess this would have gone to an Apple computer. It even has the name of the guy on there. Oh, okay, cool. So you kind of see here, you could put your patches in here. You also had this little area right here, which is super cool. And then what I always thought was super cool, you had this little flap here, which I guess would have been like for the power cord, but you could kind of hide a few patches right there. But all of these spaces are just long enough for CSPs and flap, about 5 inches. And in the middle, I've seen people put like cigar boxes to kind of break this area up. But this essentially became, for a long time, and when I got into the Order of the Arrow was in 1986. So just do the timeline, that was right after the 85 Jamboree. So when I'm sort of that 14-year-old scout getting in the Order of the Arrow, the really cool guys in my lodge that had patches who went to the 85 Jamboree, some of them came to camp carrying their Apple bag, and that's what they were pimping their patches around in. So, you know, I was impressionable. So I always thought these things were just cool as hell. I always just loved them. And the irony is now that I've become older and more advanced collector, I'll have a lot more stuff to trade. The idea of just taking an Apple bag to an event doesn't really work for me very well because I usually have, you know, Ziploc bags full of stuff to trade from lots of different areas. And so the Apple bag doesn't work. But sometimes in my mind, I still long for the idea of just going to an event and carrying an Apple bag and trading patches out of the Apple bag. I might still do that at my next lodge event, so we'll see. But anyways, I just wanted to show this. I know people have seen this before, but maybe some younger people watching Threadheads had not ever heard the story of the Apple bag that was kind of famous from the '85 Jamboree. So if you want one, I can tell you I got this for about $50. That's kind of what they go for, shipping included. You'll sometimes see them for sale for like, I had one that I bid on. It was like $25 minimum bid, but by the time I paid for shipping, it was $50. And then this one, I think I ended up getting for like $50 with free shipping. So that's kind of the going rate for them. Not that, you know, there aren't other bags, but the fact that it's this Apple bag is kind of just the cool thing. So, all right, Brad, I'm gonna throw it to you, man.
Yeah, you mentioned that. So I had one, and I still got it up here. It's got stuff stacked on it, or I get down. One of my buddies wanted it and told the same story you did about how they were wrong size or whatever. The one I got, funny enough, has the Jamboree emblem like screened on it. So somebody, after asking in the group, somebody had just taken it at the Jamboree over to like some screening station or something they had, and it's got just a yellow Jamboree logo screened on it. So it's pretty cool. This one is a little damaged though. It has like some plastic in the back, but I guess that's the only thing I've heard of that they don't really make the test of time with, is that little plastic gets brittle that's in there that kind of keeps it a little rigid. But yeah, awesome, Jason. Appreciate you sharing that. I know it kind of, that when I posted mine, it blew up the whole thread. People talking about theirs they've got, you know, and people that still carry them around. I know we've seen Destry a few times post the ones he's got with, I think he's got a few he's added the back patch to. But he, you know, there's several guys that kind of chimed in and said, oh, I remember being there and standing in line and telling the story. So really cool, really cool. You know, I mean, what will it be in another 20 years? They're talking about, oh yeah, remember I got this whatever at Jamboree, and who knows, it's probably, to be honest with you, it's probably the World Jamboree condoms that they'll be talking about in 20 years. People will be pulling out of collections, go, I got this at the World Jamboree. So anyways,
Yeah.
but so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit, I appreciate that. I kind of want to talk a little bit about kind of blind trades and traderies because of the pandemic. And like we said, I think that the last time you and I had seen each other was at the Indie Tradery last year, which they canceled this year. They're not having. And then the only other tradery I made last year was the Tulsa in March, and that actually was the first weekend in March before they shut down. I know I've heard of a few small ones that ran, like maybe at camps, you know, but with the pandemic, we were lucky to have an ordeal this last year. You know, we ran one, we usually run two. So, but to kind of help with that, you know, I've been running these blind trades. I'm in the middle of sorting a flap one right now, and I've kind of seen that pick up a little bit, at least some way for, you know, us, you know, collectors that'll buy the dead stock from your lodge, you know, flaps or dead stock council strips or whatever, kind of mix up. So I try to do council strip ones and then flap ones, and at least kind of mix it up. So I've seen kind of an uptick in that, more people participating in those because, you know, it's an opportunity to trade. You know, and that's kind of leads me into like tradery. You know, we held the Oklahoma City tradery, Monte Lodge hosted, and we had that this past weekend, and it was very successful. I was surprised. You know, we had collectors from all over. A few guys from Texas come up as far down as like close to Galveston area. Sean Wilmer came in from, you know, Baltimore area, and a few guys from Missouri. We had guys from Minnesota come down. So we got quite a bit from all over. It's small tradery. We only had about 35 tables. But every table was filled up, and then the walk-in traffic was really good. So we were impressed. I think just a lot of people were excited to get out and trade patches. You know, we had several youth come along. Our lodge, just one of our past lodge chiefs just got elected the Southern Region Chief, so he showed up, and so it was a good event. Certainly something to build on, but I kind of felt like, you know, these guys that came in, from far out were just kind of itching too. And it's kind of got me to the point where, I don't know about you, Jason, but I'm kind of looking at making some trips myself to some traderies just because it's been so long. I'm looking at making it up to Pittsburgh. I have family in that area, so it kind of works out. And then there's one in the fall up in Ohio. So kind of looking at a few of those, but I know a lot have been canceled for this year that we would typically go to. I know you're planning one yourself and still kind of teetering on the venue side.
Right.
Our scout troop's the same way. We're kind of stuck where the charter organization will only allow us to use so much area and stuff. And I think that's been the biggest challenge with people that are trying to plan traderies, is that the council or the facilities they're using aren't quite sure as far as when those are going to open up to allow people in, big crowds. So I will say ours was temperatures at the door, masks were required in the building, as best as you could to social distance. So there were some precautions. We offered merit badge classes, but we limited that in size, so we didn't have 20 kids crammed in a room. So I almost foresee going forward there's going to have to be some of those safety measures in place in order to do a tradery, and to make those people that are going to support it a little more at ease in order to have them. So that's kind of where I see it going forward. I think we're going to be wearing masks for a while, and hand sanitizer everywhere. One of the things that did affect our tradery was we had talked about serving meals, having like a concession stand. And so what we did with that is we still did it, but everything was prepackaged, like you did chips, and then we had 20-ounce bottles of soda that people could get. But then when it came to food, one day we did lunch, and one of the guys brought in Chick-fil-A, so those were individually wrapped and packaged foods. It wasn't like, same with pizza. We actually served pizza on Friday night, but we had a service system. So one guy served the pizza instead of like, oh, just go up there and grab your pizza. So there were a few of those things we kind of had to make some adjustments with that we wouldn't typically do or really typically think of. Because, throw 4 pizzas up there and it's a free-for-all, and you don't really think about it. But then when you get 15, 20 hands grabbing pizza, then that's not good. So I think that just moving forward, we're going to have to, in order to have these traderies, people are going to look at how can we do this safely? What's the best way to continue doing this? And I think that's in scouting events in general. Our council is starting to open up stuff in the spring, but same precautions, hand sanitizer, masks, and whatever you can do to be safe. So that's pretty much it. Again, like I said, I thought the tradery went well for a short planned event and kind of a on the fence event for a while because the council was on the fence, but a lot of walk-in traffic, a lot of patches moving around, a lot of memorabilia moving around. So it was a very good show for us to have. So I'm glad we had it, and we had some good support from the lodge and section. So,
well, I would agree completely, Brad, when you say there'll be a lot of pent-up demand for people getting out. I'm already seeing that. My summer job is kind of running a camp as a camp director, and actually talked to a mom today, and she said that, her son in South Florida, they live in Fort Lauderdale, that her son told her, Mom, I want to go to scout camp. I want to get that experience. They're so ready, and not just scouts, but obviously even older types like us, to get out and kind of get back to normal. And so I do really think that whether it be this fall, maybe that's kind of when I'm hoping to host the tradery in Charlotte that's been postponed, is that people will really be anxious to get out. So we'll kind of see on that. Brad, I wanted to also share something that I had talked to you about, which is this way that I've been reorganizing my collection, because I think it might be something that other people can copy and borrow. I've often seen that sometimes if I have an idea and I just put it out there on Facebook, like an example of Keith Coffey and his frame system for boxware, that people kind of run with it and kind of make something more, better than I ever thought. And so what I've been doing, back in 1997, I started a very, very small name number collection, literally just going through the little patch book where you had one flat pictured and scratching off, oh, I got that one out, and I would trade for them on blankets at the Jamboree. But here in the last probably 6 months, I've become much more interested in that, kind of getting back into it. And what prompted that was my desire to kind of relabel, redo the whole collection. Because what really mattered to me is I didn't really want to have a collection that just had a bunch of flaps. I wanted to have all of the historical information included with the patch. So I can kind of give an example of what that looks like. This is an example, and I know this is backwards, so I do apologize, but there's nothing I can do about the camera. This is an example of how I have my collection labeled from before. And so this is actually an old cut and paste straight from the old OA Images site with the sort of historical information. I literally just like printed that out on a little piece of cardstock and glued it on this card. And then over here I had which issue I had. And then I think I upgraded to an S1 from this lodge, so I stuck that in there. But what I'm kind of moving to now, and I'll tell people how to do this, is what the card is going to look like now. And so I've got a spreadsheet that I'll be happy to share with folks that I think is 99% accurate, that has whether the lodge is active, what year were they charted, what was their totem. I always thought that was an interesting thing. And so I generated labels with all of that historical information. What's the merger history? Who did they merge into? That kind of thing. And then over here, the council name and the city and state. So you kind of get the idea. If that's not the right one, those actually, Dazu, that's from your area, right? I can't read it back.
Absolutely.
This is one of my needs. I don't have that, Brad, so I'm counting on you, man. But the idea would be that then this would sit in this card, and I would have all the historical information kind of around it. And that's how my collection would be displayed. And so I've been working on that. I've kind of gotten distracted by a lot of other pans in the fire. But this is my stack of needs. So I still have a long way to go. I'm still working on them, but that's one of them. But guys, the way I did this, and I just, again, I can't go into all the logistics of it, but essentially it was a spreadsheet in Microsoft Excel, and then doing a mail merge in Microsoft Word. You can tell I'm really old. I used to do, mail merges, right? And then you could just decide which fields you wanted and how you want them arranged on the label. And then, of course, you can buy different size labels. Like this one's 1x4, and this one's like 2x3 or 3x3 or something. And then just, plopping that information on there. So it's definitely a trial and error type thing. But to me, I would really, this is kind of how I prefer to have my collection mounted, is just to kind of have some context around it to kind of share the historical information. So like in my lodge collection, I have a label like this that would share who the designers of the patch were, because we've kind of kept up with that over the years in my lodge. So anyways, that's an idea for everybody. If you want to get more information, I'll leave my email address in the show notes, and you're welcome to reach out to me. I'll be glad to share my spreadsheet. It's about 99% accurate, but also there's lodges that are merging, every year. And so it's constantly changing also.
I'll go ahead and start with mine, what I've got, and then I'll pass over to you if that's okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing right behind me, this I picked up not too long ago. This is the troop flag for the World Jamboree. That's the 15th World Jamboree that was in Canada, and this is the Oklahoma troop, so Troop 504. I went and picked a collection that was a ton of mugs. I mean, the lady had a bunch of mugs and stuff, but the Apple bag was there, and then this troop flag I thought was really cool. It's a really well made, but it's kind of a cool piece to the collection because that's a one of one. There's only one of those, and it's really cool. Actually, in the last year, I've picked up 2 troop flags. I have another troop flag that's from the troop, Last Frontier Council troop, that went to the 97 Jamboree. They had 4 troops, and I got one of the troop flags. Funny story on that is I was at a flea market, and the guy was using the flag just to cover his table. Wow. When he wasn't there. So I said, hey, what are you doing with that flag? He said, well, I use it to cover my table, so when I'm gone, people don't get my stuff or whatever. And so I ended up picking that up, but I thought it was kind of interesting. That's another one of one. They only made one of them, and usually the Scoutmaster got to keep it. So I don't know the whole backstory on that, but I did pick it up. I have a few more things I want to share with you, and then I'll kick it over to you. These were kind of big pickups for me. My home lodge is Wissawanek Lodge out of Arbuckle Council, and my home camp is Camp Simpson. And I don't like collect it really heavy. I've always collected Camp Simpson stuff because I went and got the patches, and then I started kind of filling in the back. I think a lot of people do that with lodge council strips, even camp patches. But then I see things that I've never seen, and this came across, and I had to pick it up. So this is a neckerchief from my camp. Woo-hoo.
Oh, nice.
It's not showing up backwards on your end, is it?
No, I can see it clean. Yeah.
Yours was clean too, so I guess maybe
Okay.
maybe this way works better.
Oh, I see.
Anyways, nobody had ever seen one of these. I hadn't either. In the picture when I picked it up, it looked like it was black, but you can kind of see it's more of it's a yellow or gold on or green on gold.
Yeah.
Kind of like the old troop neckerchiefs because it's got that whatever design they call that, like a chevron design. But yeah, I had never seen one. The other people I asked hadn't either, so I was excited to get that. My current lodge I'm involved with is Manu Lodge 133 out here out of Last Frontier Council, and so I picked up some really big pieces. This was kind of cool. Manu Lodge's first activity piece is a neckerchief. This is the very first activity piece that the lodge ever made. It was obviously for a vigil event or fellowship where they had a vigil event. I don't know the whole backstory on it, but it's, they did 2 of these before they ever made a patch for an event. So this is the very first neckerchief. Really hard to find, even though it's an event neckerchief. It's just one of those that they kind of disappeared. And then to find one in this condition, I mean, like it's near mint. I don't know if somebody took it and put it in this plastic, but I got to add that to my collection. And both of my collection, my Manu collection, I started out collecting flaps and then kind of moved into the chevron or the like X issues and R issues. And then later on, I just kind of picked up activities as I came along. But in the last year, I've probably picked up 50% of the activities, and I'm down to like maybe 12 or 13 activity needs. And this was probably the biggest one I picked up. And then the last piece, and then I'll throw it over to you, Jason. So my lodge does these patches every year. If you can read it on it's the original Manu patch, the A1 or Green Monster, whatever people want to call it, is like the wob, right? So then they patterned a jacket patch after that first issue. Well, later on, one of the advisors in 2011 started this program, and it says meritorious service on it. It looks just like an A1 Green Monster. And then every year they've put the year on it. So in 2011, when they started it, the lodge only produced 50 of these and gave them all out. So this is the shortest run of any of the meritorious services we've done. And we still make them. We produce them a few years at a time now, and we produce 100 per year. So like we would have ordered probably 18, 19, and 20 together to get that. For the people that aren't aware of how patch production works, when you do that, you can pay a variation cost, like just to change that digit at the end and so it's still a little cheaper to do that. So we've started doing that, but obviously the first time they made 50 of them. So I managed to pick this one up this year to stick in my collection, and that catches me up with all the jacket patches that the lodge has ever made, except for the ones we haven't, the meritorious service. We release these at our lodge banquet every year, and the lodge advisor gives them out as personal gifts. If we have a few left over, we'll use them as fundraisers. Usually we have like 4 or 5 extra, and they sell those for about $100 a piece in order to offset the cost of the production to give away the patches to everybody. But there's not a lot extra. So this one was more than likely earned by someone, and then I managed to pick it up in a collection. So I was pretty excited about that. How about you, Jason? What kind of cool, awesome stuff? Because you always pick up awesome stuff.
Well, let me compliment you. Anytime that you can add needs from your home lodge, that's like the home run, right? I mean, picking up other stuff that you're going to resell, not nearly as exciting as getting like that 1966 neckerchief. That's beautiful. Because I'm kind of working from home today, I had a bunch of errands to do with the family. My wife actually is at my warehouse where it's nice and quiet. There's no dogs or cats or children. She's getting a lot of work done. So I did bring some projects home. I don't have a whole lot of cool stuff to show you, but I will say this, kind of going back to this ideas collection, I did recently purchase a large collection from a guy who passed away in 1976. And he had a name and number collection that wasn't complete, but it did have several of my needs in it. And so I bought the whole collection. It was really expensive. Most I'd spent in quite a while on a collection, but I should be able to go in there and pull out ones I need and add them to my keepers, and then I'll have plenty to resell. So hopefully I can sort of make my money back on reselling this stuff. So I think that might be another episode of Threadheads where I could show, kind of the outcome of that.
Absolutely. Future material.
Right. Got to give them something to, keep them coming back.
Yeah, exactly. So sometime in the future, Jason's going to show us this awesome collection he bought for buku's money, and puts in his own collection. So
right. Well, so let's close it out this
awesome.
week, Brad. I know that we have not done a show in a long time, and one thing we're always interested in is talking to younger collectors. And so definitely I'll have our email addresses at the bottom of the show notes. If anyone has a question they would like to ask, please shoot it to us. Maybe there's a topic you want us to explore, whether, I don't know, I'm sure you have a creative mind, you can think of something, but we would love to kind of head this towards what people want to see rather than us talking about things that we enjoy all the time. So just kind of keep that in mind. Brad, any closing thoughts before we sign off?
No, I want to second that. Absolutely any content people want to see, or just things we want to discuss. I know in the past we've talked about, FOS patches. We kind of went on a rant on that. We talked a little bit about conclave patches, and so we've done mailing. That was a cool one we did, and it's probably out of date now. How you mail patches and stuff like that. Or how we package stuff. I know you and I both sell full-time on eBay, and so I'm sure there's some questions out there that might be asking us how we're shipping things, saving on shipping costs, or whatever. But yeah, absolutely. Whatever they want to hear, whatever you guys want to hear about, just definitely shoot us a note, because I think that's kind of the direction we want to go, is make sure that we're putting out useful content, and answering questions we can. So yeah, I agree with you, Jason. That's kind of where we always kind of wanted to go, that direction, is what kind of hot topics can we touch on and try to help people out with. So
all right, man, thanks a lot. We'll do it again soon.
Yeah, sounds good.